They said no girl from Umuaka Girls High ever dared climb the ancient mango tree at the back of the boys' hostel. But Adaeze did. It was the last day of the term. The sky was swollen with rain, and the drums of the school band were rolling for the send-off ceremony. From below, the boys were shouting at her to come down. But Adaeze's eyes were not on them. She was staring at Chidi, the boy every girl in school admired but no one could reach. His prefect's badge gleamed in the weak sunlight. He was standing with folded arms, expression unreadable, as she reached for the highest branch. One wrong step, and she would fall. The crowd gasped. But Adaeze smiled, a slow, daring smile, and shouted down. "If I climb higher, will you tell me the truth?" Chidi's lips parted. The rain began to fall. And that was the moment everything changed. Weeks earlier, Adaeze had been just another Form 4 girl with good grades and too much curiosity for her own good. Her grandmother often warned her. A child who asks too many questions will one day meet the question that breaks her heart. In their school, love was a whispered thing. Girls passed folded notes, boys sent looks across the assembly ground, and friendships bloomed and withered with the seasons. But for Adaeze and her best friend Amoka, love was something they observed from afar. They sat on the dormitory steps, sipping sachet water and watching the drama of other people's relationships like an afternoon movie. Until Chidi came. He was not new to the school, he had been there since JSS 1, but this year, something about him was different. Maybe it was the way he now walked like he carried a secret, or how his laughter seemed rarer, but warmer. Or maybe it was the rumor that he had turned down every girl who tried to talk to him. One evening, during prep, Amoka nudged Adaeze. "They say he's waiting for someone special. Someone who isn't like the rest." Adaeze had scoffed. That's what they all say until they get bored. But 2 days later, she found herself staring a little too long when Chidi passed by, the smell of his cologne trailing behind him. Adaeze's first real conversation with Chidi was by accident. She had gone to the library to return a book and found him at the far table, sketching in a notebook. His drawing was of the old mango tree behind the boys' hostel, the one students said was cursed. She had asked, "Why draw that tree?" He had replied without looking up, "Because it holds the truth about this place." She laughed nervously, thinking it was a joke. But his eyes told her otherwise. A week later, Adaeze overheard two boys talking about a dare. "If she climbs the mango tree, he'll finally talk," one said. She knew they were talking about Chidi and some girl from another school. But something in her stirred, a challenge she couldn't explain. She told Amoka about it, expecting her to laugh it off. Instead, Amoka's face went serious. "Adaeze, don't. That tree is not just a tree. My cousin once," she stopped herself, shivering. "Just leave it." Adaeze promised she would. But that night, lying on her bunk, she couldn't stop thinking about the way Chidi's eyes had softened when she'd asked about the tree. 2 days before the end of term, Adaeze found a folded paper in her locker. No name, just a sentence: "If you want to know the truth, meet me by the mango tree on Friday." Friday came, and rain threatened to fall. Adaeze almost didn't go, until she saw Chidi at the far end of the field, waiting. That's how she ended up climbing, her school skirt catching on the rough bark, her hands scraped, the crowd below holding its breath. She was inches away from the highest branch when she repeated the question, "Will you tell me the truth?" The rain poured harder, soaking them both. Chidi stepped closer to the trunk, looking up at her with an expression she couldn't read. Finally, he said, "If you're ready to hear it, climb down first." The rain didn't stop, but the crowd began to scatter, teachers shouting for students to get back to their dorms. Only a few stubborn onlookers remained, half hidden under the mango's dripping leaves. Adaeze hesitated, her fingers tightening around the wet branch. Part of her wanted to stay up there forever, suspended above the noise and rules. But something in Chidi's voice, low, steady, almost pleading, made her climb down. She landed softly on the muddy ground. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The rain slid down Chidi's face, darkening the badge on his shirt. "What truth?" she asked finally, crossing her arms. He glanced at the empty field, then back at her. "You don't just climb this tree for fun," he said. "In our school, it's a promise." Adaeze frowned. "A promise to who?" "To the one you love, or think you love," he replied. "If you make it to the top, it means you're ready to face whatever comes with the truth. If you fall, it means you weren't ready." Her heart thudded. "And you? Did you ever climb it?" "Yes," he said quietly. For someone who never waited to hear my answer. For the next few days, Adaeze couldn't stop thinking about that moment. Chidi hadn't said her name, hadn't given her any sign that she was the one he might wait for. But his eyes, steady, almost sad, seemed to be searching hers for something. On the last evening before the holiday, she found him again at the library. This time, he was sketching the tree from a different angle, not majestic and tall, but twisted, with its roots sinking deep into the earth. "Why draw it like that?" she asked. "Because love isn't just about reaching the top," he said without looking up. "It's about knowing where the roots are." Adaeze laughed softly. "That sounds like something my grandmother would say." "Then your grandmother is a wise woman," he said, finally smiling. That smile lit something in her. And for the first time, she saw the way he looked at her, not as another schoolmate, but as someone who had climbed higher than most dared, just to understand him. When she told Amoka about it, her friend shook her head. "Be careful, Adaeze. Boys like him, they leave stories behind. Sometimes sweet, sometimes bitter." Adaeze didn't argue. But she knew some stories were worth living, even if they ended with lessons instead of happy endings. On the morning students were leaving for home, Chidi found her near the school gate. In his hand was a folded paper. He pressed it into her palm and whispered, "For when you're ready." She didn't open it until she was back in her grandmother's compound, lying on her bed with the sound of evening crickets outside. Inside was a single line, written in neat, careful letters. "The truth is, I was waiting for someone who would climb, not to win me, but to understand me. And I think I found her." That night, Adaeze dreamed of the mango tree. Its roots, its branches, and the boy who saw both. The harmattan term began with dry winds and sharper tongues. By the second week back at Umoka Girls High, whispers had started, the kind that curl like smoke around corridors and slip under classroom doors. They say Adaeze climbed the boy's tree for Chidi. They say she was showing off to make him notice her. They say he already has a girlfriend in another school. Adaeze didn't need anyone to tell her who started it, the same girls who had been watching from the edge of the field that day, their eyes sharp as sewing needles. At first, she ignored it. She focused on her studies, walked with Amoka to class, kept her head high. But gossip is like dripping water on stone, given time, it wears you down. One afternoon, she saw Chidi in the distance, talking to two girls from the drama club. They were laughing at something he said. And though she told herself it was nothing, the laughter echoed in her mind long after. A week later, Chidi passed her a small note during break, "Meet me at the mango tree after prep." Her heart skipped. The same tree, the one that had started it all. That night, under the pale moonlight, she found him there. The field was silent except for the rustle of dry leaves. He didn't waste time. "I heard what they've been saying," he began. She tried to joke. "Oh. And did they get my good side?" But his face stayed serious. "If you believe them, you don't know me." Her stomach knotted. "And if I don't believe them, what do I know?" He looked away. "That I'm not perfect. That I have things I can't explain yet. And that this," he gestured between them. only works if we trust each other. The word hung in the air like a delicate thread. The next weekend, the school hosted the inter-house sports day. Adaeze was running in the 400 meters for her house. She was halfway down the track, lungs burning, when she saw Chidi at the finish line, shouting her name. Something in that moment, his voice, his smile, drowned out every whisper she had heard in the past weeks. She finished third, but it felt like she'd won. Later, while they sat on the school bleachers, Chidi told her a story. When I was in JSS 3, I liked a girl. She promised she'd climb the tree for me, but she didn't. She chose someone else. I thought I'd stopped believing in all that. Adaeze listened quietly. She understood then why the tree mattered to him. It wasn't just a dare, it was his way of knowing if someone would risk pride for truth. That night, Amoka pulled her aside. "There's something you need to hear," she whispered. "What is it?" Adaeze asked. Amoka's eyes darted around before she leaned closer. "Chidi's name is on the transfer list. He might be leaving this term." The news of Chidi's possible transfer sat in Adaeze's chest like an unripe fruit, heavy, sour, and refusing to go down. She tried to focus on her books, but every sound of footsteps outside her class made her look up, wondering if he had come to tell her it was true. Days passed. He didn't mention it, and she didn't ask. Instead, they shared small moments, a quiet wave across the assembly ground, passing each other in the library with just a glance. It was sweet, but it was also the silence before a storm. One Thursday afternoon, the prefects called an emergency assembly. The principal stood with a list in her hand. "These are the students representing our school in the national science competition in Abuja," she said. Chidi's name was first. He smiled faintly, but when his eyes met Adaeze in the crowd, there was something else there, a shadow she couldn't name. That evening, Amoka found her. "It's worse than we thought," she said. "If he does well at that competition, the other school will take him on full scholarship. He might not come back." Adaeze felt her throat tighten. She thought of the mango tree, of the way they'd stood beneath it. If he left without a word, she'd be just another girl in his story. 2 days before his trip, she slipped a note into his locker: "Meet me at the mango tree after prep." No excuses. That night, the moon was brighter than the last time. She stood waiting, heart pounding. When he arrived, she didn't waste time. "Is it true? Are you leaving?" He sighed. "It's possible. But Adaeze, I didn't tell you because I didn't want this to be about time running out. I wanted it to be about what we had, no matter how short." Her voice trembled. "And if I'm not ready to let it be short?" He stepped closer. "Then promise me something. Whether I'm here or not, don't stop climbing for the truth. Don't settle for less than someone who will climb for you too." The morning of his departure for Abuja, Adaeze went to watch the buses load. She didn't speak to him, but as the bus pulled away, he leaned out of the window and shouted, "Roots and branches, Adaeze." The other students laughed at the strange farewell, but she understood. Chidi did not return that term. His transfer came quietly, with no chance for goodbyes. But Adaeze learned that love, in its truest form, is not about holding someone in place. It's about carrying the lesson they leave with you, that roots matter as much as branches, and that some climbs are worth the scrapes if they teach you to see the world from higher ground. And so, whenever she passed the mango tree, she smiled, not because she had conquered it, but because it had taught her how to climb at all.